And I think the best way to start this is to go, what is this podcast?
Beyond the Game.
Beyond the Game. That's what the podcast is called?
Beyond the Game.
And what is Beyond the Game? What does that mean?
It's talking about more than just the game. About what's coming up, what people are doing outside of it, where maybe we should know more about what these guys are doing than what we just see on TV.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And like a great point is that you have all of these Canadian athletes, or maybe even just teams, because some of these teams don't even have just Canadian athletes, but they're involved in Canadian sports, or teams that are Canada-based.
Yep.
And me being Canadian, I don't know all of the Canadians that are around. And, we just had the Olympics.
Yep.
And now we've got... What? Sorry?
We did quite well there. That was good.
Did we?
Good showing. Yeah.
Actually, I don't even... you know what I watched? Was sprinting. Because I watched that every Olympics, and I'm not sure where we fell in the medal standings.
Oh, we did all right.
How did Australia do, actually?
Australia didn't do... Well, I mean, we do well outside of the sprinting. Sprinting. I mean, we've got Andre DeGrasse here in Canada, who he did well.
That's why we're doing a Canadian podcast. Maybe Australia will be when we get sponsors eventually, and we'll have time to do that. But for now, we're starting in Canada because that's where Nick and I live, in Vancouver. We'll try not to be as Vancouver biased as I am from Edmonton, and it's hard for me to do stuff on just Vancouver, let me tell you. But you wanted to start this off with a Athlete of the Week kind of segment, right?
Yeah, I wanted to chat just about pick an athlete each week. This week, kind of wanted to focus in on Nathan Rourke, who plays for the BC Lions. He's made his season return after a stint down in the States, having a crack at the NFL. So he's come back, and he's had a bit of a stellar season so far.
Back in the CFL.
Back in the CFL.
So CFL, for those who don't even know, there is the Canadian Football League, because some people, honestly, they're such big NFL fans, might not even know that the Canadian Football League is a thing. I'm sure people outside of Canada maybe don't even know the Canadian Football League is a thing because they're probably focused on the NFL, which has worldwide reach. I don't think Canadian football has worldwide reach.
No, it's also a slightly different sport. Like the field dimension's slightly different, the ball size is different, even down to a few of the rules that are ever so slightly different from the actual NFL. I think it might just be the NFL making sure that people aren't the same. But yeah, the CFL it's a different game. It is smaller being up in Canada. We've only got 6 or 8 teams. So
I played a little bit back in my day.
I'll let you hear.
Yeah. I was what the hell even was I? I was a cornerback. That's what I was. I was on the outside.
You were busy.
Yeah, I was busy.
Busy bee.
I had sticky hands. I was a little frog.
God, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, but anyway, so Nathan Rourke, he's the Athlete of the Week. Why is he the Athlete of the Week?
So he's come back into season, and he's what have we got here? Oh gosh, that's noise. He's back in with 32 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions this year, which is quite great. The interception's a little high than what we would want to see. We'd want to see that down around maybe 5 at this time of the season, but it's going well, having come back in with the change of team again, also the lack of consistency he had before he came back to the CFL, because he wasn't a starting line, he was just testing out. No one actually picked him up at the end, so he hasn't had a lot of game time. So him coming back and getting these stats along with over 4,500 yards this season, it's making him one of the top passers in the CFL.
So he is a quarterback as well. I learned through that. And he went from CFL. Where was he before?
He was with BC Lions.
He was with BC Lions. Then he went and was it just tryouts or was he actually signed to a team?
It was a temporary signing. They got a weird thing down there where you can go down in like preseason / a couple of the first weeks where it's like they get to test some guys under contract so that no one else can kind of snag them. So say he played with, the main one he was focused with was the Jaguars. And it looked like at one point he was going to get picked up, but that didn't end up going through.
So it's kind of like in hockey, they have this thing called a PTO. It's a professional tryout.
Yep.
Basically, but this is cross league, so that's super different. Where it's some players in hockey, right? They get to do a professional tryout, which means they weren't signed. They weren't given a contract. Sounds very similar, where you just get to come in, you be with the team, you practice with the team, and you see if you can squeeze your way onto the team and get an actual contract.
Yeah, I think it was very similar there. And I mean, he did make the news at one point last season with what he did down there with the Jags, where he had one play that particularly went nuts. I think it was just a long pass, and everyone was just like, "Oh, damn, this kid can throw." And from there, we all thought that he was going to grab it, but for whatever reason, they just didn't have enough space on their lineup. But yeah, he was up against Trevor Lawrence, who has had some interesting ups and downs. Unfortunately, the Jags this season are, I think, what are we, week 4, and they're 3-1.
So they don't necessarily
1-3.
1-3. I was going to say, well, 3-1. That's pretty good.
No, the Jags have lost until this past week. They've lost the 9 previous matches.
Woof.
It's not been great.
So he came back here to play again for the BC Lions. Is he? And he's starting again.
He's starting again.
Okay,
yeah.
so it kind of sounds like he's just got a better opportunity to start.
Yeah.
And play more.
Get the game time again.
Yeah, get the game time again.
And he trains with a local QB coach. Floats around up at
really?
Ben Burnett, yeah. So I mean, people can catch a sighting of the man when he's doing some extra training. So.
Is he acclaimed and stuff? Like Nathan Rourke did he win stuff? Is he new? How old is this guy?
So he was picked up in 2020.
Okay.
So he is still quite fresh within his own playing career here in the CFL. So I think that puts him like late 20s.
And as a quarterback, you can play a little bit later as well, right?
I mean, we've all seen it with Tom Brady and
it's different. You can't compare.
Where you got Rodgers, like it's not the same as hockey. Where I know like hockey's renowned for having like some old crackerjacks floating around. You get what was it? I saw something where some guy was played with his son and his like grandson on the ice or something silly. Yeah,
there was some people who went quite old. Some of the oldest people I think would have been into their 50s, but that was a while ago now.
Yeah,
I think I don't know the last instance that we've had someone where it was a dad and a son. I think Gordie Howe and Mark Howe were Gordie Howe. That would have been him, but I don't think that he got to play with his grandson.
Okay.
So but yeah, so they can play a little. Some
QB's got a little more. They don't have to run as much.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it with Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah.
Down in the NFL, he's not moving as great, but he's still out there. He's in his 40s, so.
Well,
heck, I'd love to do that.
Nathan Rourke, athlete of the week, Canadian athlete of the week, which
Ontario
makes this important. So and then how many more games left? Are they in the?
I think we're at the tail
end of the CFL.
I should know this. I think we are like
midway through.
Mid tail end, yeah. Because they finish a heck of a lot earlier than most of the leagues at this time of year.
I wonder if he could be sniffing MVP at all. I wonder. Is it because he left and came back? Though,
yeah,
right?
I think he was a bit rusty, kind of getting back into the things. I think he's now fine on his group, but definitely. Which is why we picked him for this week because he's starting to show some really good form. But beginning of the season, he was you could definitely see a bit of rust on the system. So
well, he's coming back. Hopefully, he keeps doing well. What else we got?
Well, we got the weekly recap of some of our major Canadian sports or sports that have some Canadian athletes in. So we got the CFL recap. So BC Lions were up against the Toronto Argonauts. And obviously, BC Lions were led by our athlete of the week, Nathan Rourke. And they had a important win this week, which improves their chance in the playoffs. So, which is going to get quite interesting.
Midway through the season, I wonder what place are BC? Do you know what place where BC's sitting right now at all?
Let me just
if they are sniffing close to a playoff spot. Because if Nathan Rourke is coming back and he's just improved their chances to be able to sneak in, if they got a few more games left, it could be tight.
Yeah, well, in the West Division, where BC Lions are sitting third.
Okay, and what do we need to be to get in? Because there's
top 2. You
got to be 2. Top 2. See, that's what makes it exciting.
So, yeah, if we can get another win, we're probably going to be all right.
Okay.
So. Win over the Argonauts was pretty good there. They're same
That's
standing,
big.
but on the east side. So, yeah, taking them out is going to help our cause. And if we can get this next one, I think BC Lions will do all right. So yeah, we'll see how that all unfolds. And then we've got in tennis, we had Leylah Fernandez took out a victory in the, oh gosh, I'm getting spun in here. You're going to have to say this one.
Oh, what's the name here?
Oh, that's a tongue
Leylah
twister.
Fernandez, Guadalajara.
Oh man, I don't know how you
Open
pull
victory.
that one out.
It's because it's a country.
Yeah, because as an Australian, I butcher things at the best of times.
So she won the Guadalajara
Yeah,
Open,
she took
basically?
it out. Yeah, she came out on top, which was,
I was looking into some. That's really big, but I was looking into like a whole bunch of the sports where it's an individual going into different tourneys and stuff like that. So because there's a few big ones. There's Wimbledon, and there's a couple other ones that are on that tier, I think.
yeah, like the US Open,
The US,
and you got the Oz Open,
and the Aussie, and then where's this one? This is to qualify for those, right?
This is still on the WTA tour.
Yeah.
So it's still up there as one of the major stops. It's just not one of the Grand Slams. So she's she's 22, so she's quite young.
Okay, that's pretty young.
So, and she's had a really stellar streak on the hard courts.
Yeah.
So we're talking not grass or dirt.
Or sand.
We're talking
The sand, not
typical
sand.
concrete courts for those who aren't too sure. But yeah, most of our Grand Slams are on hard court.
Yeah.
Outside of Wimbledon, and it's the clay court.
Spanish Open.
Yeah, Spanish Open.
That's Spanish. Did I get that right? It's the Spanish Open.
Spanish.
Where
It's the one when Nadal has had.
yeah, that's what I mean.
tremendous
Because that's where
success
he's
over the years.
obviously the king.
Yeah.
Or he was the king.
Wasn't until the new guys have come in and they've
Where so Leylah, she won the Open. Where does that? I forget how the seeding works. Not seeding, but because it's not seeding, but it's ranking.
Yeah.
To be able to qualify for.
So I believe she's doing well enough at the moment that it's going to solidify her position as one of the better players on tour at the moment. And this is going to help her with a few more tournaments that are coming up before she heads down to Australia for the Oz Open. So she's going to be someone for the Canadians to pay attention to for that. Because that's happening beginning next year. Us coming into our tail end of the season here, like there's going to be a few more tournaments for her overseas before she gets up ready for that. And with Oz being the first Grand Slam of the year, it's definitely going to be one for her to really focus in on, try to have some success.
It's actually, as you were saying about Leylah possibly going to the Aussie Open. So like when my dad just has like the TV on and there's sports or whatever, he has no idea what's going on, or the Olympics are on and he doesn't know any of the athletes specifically. He's just looking for that Canadian flag. That's it.
Yeah.
So this is really exciting because the Aussie Open's worldwide broadcast.
Yeah.
And
You get it.
if it goes on the TV or goes on ESPN or wherever, and he doesn't know any of the players because he doesn't keep up with tennis, if he sees Leylah Fernandez, but he sees a Canadian flag beside that, he's going to be cheering for her no matter what.
Oh, absolutely.
So
she's sitting number 12 in the world.
12 in the world?
Yeah. So
Dang,
way out.
really?
Like, she's got a good chance to do well.
Yeah.
We've seen some upsets with some of these Grand Slams where some of these athletes lower down in the rankings have come up trumps. And I mean, it really depends on the lineup at the end of the day and how she goes through the tournament. Like she might get stuck up with like a top 5.
Well, 12 is pretty dang good. Isn't there like 32 something started out, or 60 or is it 64 that start out those big boys, those big tournaments?
No, they go down to, I think some of them have like 100, I think it's 128.
Right, and then it's just bracket style, right?
Yeah.
It just goes.
And it's the higher ranking you are, you do get more buys.
Yeah.
You get to miss some of the early rounds.
So 12 is awesome then.
Yeah, 12 gives her a really good head start in those tournaments. So she gets a little less game time, which is good, especially with some of these tournaments where it's a little hotter. As a Canadian, that's always a bit of a challenge. So yeah, it should be good to see how she goes. But yeah, she's known for being quite fierce and agile on the court. So that should bode pretty well going down to the Australian heat. So we'll see in the next few months how she lines up, whether she stays injury-free.
Good old Leylah. I wonder how she's been doing with injuries, because that'll just sidelines especially if it's an individual sport, right? You get injured, you're out of a whole tournament, right? Yeah. Which can really
seems
suck.
like she's managing to stay fairly injury-free at the moment. So And then we come down to the fan favorite because it's about to kick off. The NHL.
The NHL season.
Yeah.
Ho! This is huge.
It is.
This is huge. And obviously we're in Vancouver. So this is, it's a big hockey town. I would say Vancouver is probably the #1 sports team out of here, based here. BC Lions would be next.
They got a really good fan base.
They've got a really solid fan base.
Whitecaps hit and miss.
Whitecaps I hear quite a bit. Like people go to the Whitecaps games a lot. I think that's because they're pretty affordable as well.
Yeah,
the Whitecaps games.
It's soccer. It's it's the world sport has dubbed it.
Yeah.
Everyone plays it. Everyone has an idea of how to play it. So.
Yeah. It's also it's super affordable to play. All you need is a ball. Right, as opposed to either football or hockey, which the prices go up exponentially, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm yet to get to go to a Canucks game. I've looked at the cost and I thought, I don't know about that.
That's what I'm saying. But in Vancouver, the Canucks are huge. They've had a big history here. Last year was really big step for them.
Yeah, that was
huge.
It looked like we were going to do all right. But,
and they did.
Yeah.
They did. Vancouver did so well compared to what people thought they were going to do. Because they just thought they were going to take a small step forward. And I say they as in like critics and stuff like that. But they made it all the way into the playoffs where they just ran into the Oilers. And just kind of, it's exactly where a little bit more than what people expected. So there's no reason to be upset for where it happened besides Canadian rivalries, which is the best case scenario for Canadians is to have Canadian rivalries in the playoffs because it doesn't happen very often because we're stuffed into two divisions.
Well, I think the city got behind the Oilers once the Canucks were out. Once all the Canuck fans kind of got over the saltiness, it seemed like they all were like, well, we might as well go with the guys who beat us.
It's quite debatable. I heard a lot of, well, they better lose. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's this is what's cool about Canadian podcasts, especially for when we come to the hockey aspect, because Canadian followers of these teams, they get very passionate about their team, even if they lose.
Okay.
Canadian fans don't jump to the next Canadian team that's left.
That must be an Aussie thing, because it's like if we get knocked out in something, we're like, well, we kind of like you guys, so we'll root for you guys because you better succeed if you knocked us out. Except for, unfortunately, the Italians. So we got a bit of a beef with them over the World Cup.
See?
Yeah, we're a bit salty over a couple of the dives that occurred. But we won't go into that.
Well, so there's a whole, I would say across all of the Canadian teams, you've got the still the top Canadian teams. You're looking at Edmonton, you're looking at Toronto, you're looking at Vancouver as the top performing Canadian teams throughout the regular season. Winnipeg would be in the next tier there, where they are very good as a team. They just don't have as much firepower.
What about Calgary?
Yeah, and then Calgary is honestly the bottom. It would be Calgary's currently they've said publicly that they're in a rebuild mode now.
Okay.
So that means that they're not necessarily trying to win. They're trying to secure wins in the future, which means just getting a lot of good draft picks and doing a lot of good scouting. It's not all about winning now. And
I feel like it should be.
If you try to win now when you don't have the weapons to be able to do so, then and you tell your fans that you want to win now and you end up at the bottom, it hurts more than just saying we're at the bottom. We're really going to try and be better in the future.
Okay. Yep.
So and then Ottawa and Montreal, they're doing their thing that they've been doing for the last few years, which is hopefully trying to make it into the playoffs. They're right on the cusp there, but they're just not quite there yet.
Almost. Okay.
So NHL preseason, very excited. Clearly, very huge hockey fan. We'll see how that goes. We'll recap that next time.
Because when does the season kick off?
It started officially it started on the weekend in Europe. They played a couple games.
Some exhibition matches.
Yeah, some exhibition matches. They do this every year to expand the interest of the league.
Yep.
And New Jersey and I believe it was Buffalo or St. Louis. I can't quite remember which one of the same colors. But it started over there, and then 3 games started yesterday where they had, this is now not Canadian, but it's Utah. They moved from Arizona, and they are a brand new team this year.
Yeah. They don't have a name yet.
No, it's the
Something. Is
Utah
that true?
Hockey Club, which I do not hate
Utah Hockey Club.
for the first year. Then they'll figure out something. They have a whole bunch of names, but
UHC.
UHC. I'm sure they have that on a patch or something. But Oilers play tonight. I think
Who are they up against?
Against Winnipeg. So big Canadian matchup. Big Canadian matchup. I think the Oilers are favored to win, but the Winnipeg has the best goalie in the game right now. So
I'll do that. Well, that's a good.
they Connor Hellebuck, American, won the best goalie in the league last year. So
Home soil for who?
that'll be, I believe that's a great question actually. Since I'm in Vancouver, I don't hear the buzz of whether it's actually in town, aka Edmonton.
Yeah.
So I have this feeling that it's going to be in Edmonton.
Okay.
But I really, that's 50-50. I really don't know.
We'll see how that all unfolds.
Yep.
And then looking a little more towards our winter sports, we are looking at figure skating.
Figure skating. All right, tell me all about it.
Two athletes who are competing for spots at the World Championships at the moment. So we have Leylah Schwartz, and she's one of our top female skaters, and she rose to prominence during our Winter Olympics. I actually don't know her stats on that, but I know she did really well there, and a lot of eyes were put onto her. So
People are pretty happy with her performance.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
she's doing more so on the short programming, so the shorter skating with the dance.
Mm-hmm.
So a little more freedom. And then also the free skate where you get to do what you want.
Really?
A little more freedom on like what you wear, the tricks you're allowed to do, the music. Yeah, you get a little more options.
Interesting.
And also the tempering. So that's really exciting there. So she's looking to pick up on that front.
And that's important going into the Winter Olympics too.
It is.
Right? Because all of this World Championships, I don't know how they select.
Well, winter's 2, we got 2 years.
They got 2 years, but it's still heading into it. That's the next
ready.
big thing.
Mm.
So that's her next massive
That's
thing.
the next milestone. After
right?
this, after the trying to, if we can get a couple of, World Cup appearances and we get some good performances out of our athletes, like it's going to really bode well coming into not this winter, but next winter, which will be our qualifying season.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to make sure,
what I want to find out with this, if we keep doing more of these, is what the qualifying aspects are for each big tourney they're going into, or each big system. Like, who is selecting? Is it Milena? Is that what you said? Yeah, Milena. Who's selecting Milena? Is it based on scores, or is it going to be based on the coaches that are selected? Madeline. I'm so bad. Madeline. Because with hockey, it's based on just being selected. Yeah. Right, as opposed to some other things.
Especially with sports like figure skating, where it's judged.
It's judged subjectively, as well as based on hitting certain skills a certain way.
Yeah. So you get kind of it's kind of like a floor routine for gymnastics.
Yeah.
You got X skills you're hitting, and then there's also the presentation. And that's also a rough one because the music choice, your timing,
it's tough. An artistic one is tough to judge.
Yeah, thing. And then we look at a man, Mr. Keegan missing. He's not missing.
Not missing.
We know where he is.
Keegan.
Yep. So he's a bit of a veteran though. He's been around for a while. So he's also same as Madeline. She's trying to make it into the World Championships. I believe it is actually no, it's not the World Championships. It's going into the Canadian Championships to get a spot for the World Cup.
Gotcha. Both of them?
Both of them.
Got it.
So if they do well at this Canadian National Champs, then we should hopefully see them as our top 2 heading through to the World Champs, which will be really exciting there. But this is his final
year.
Yep.
Is he not going to wait one more year for the Olympics again?
He's not.
Really? That's huge.
Well, I mean, it's 2 more seasons. That's...
How old is he?
I don't have an age.
Keegan missing.
He's a veteran, so...
Because I always like to know the upper echelon's age, the ages of these athletes if they're about to head out.
He is 32.
32?
32. Right. But, it's a very, very intense sport. There is a lot of power required and flexibility too. Especially in whether he's partnering up with any other dancer as well, that can be quite intense. the male skater typically has to throw their partner and catch on the ice. I can't even skate properly.
That's why you're not going to the Olympics.
I am not going to the Olympics for skating. It's not happening for me. Not today. But that is our major recap of Canadian sports.
Easy peasy.
But we have a couple of smaller sports coming up, upcoming events I'd love to touch on. So we have, on Canadian soil, we have in the CFL, we have the Ottawa Redbacks are up against the Montreal team on...
Argonauts?
No.
You said CFL?
The Alouettes.
Alouettes. That's CFL?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We changed our names from the Wait, is that Winnipeg Argonauts? Who's it?
Toronto.
The Toronto Argonauts?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about CFL. Alouettes?
Yeah, it's the Montreal.
What?
Yeah.
Redbacks, that's different too from last time I watched CFL.
I think it's constantly changing.
Are they constantly changing their names? Interesting. I think Ottawa was a different color as well. Or a different name.
We've only got 8 teams.
Yeah, so you got to change it up.
So keep people guessing.
I guess so.
So, I mean, that happened actually 2 days ago.
Okay.
Info's old.
Yep.
But that's happening, and then we had the kickoff of the NFL where we got our lovely home teams.
Oh,
Canadian teams are all playing.
I know. People are all telling me about their fantasy leagues in the NFL.
That's it. And then we've got some fun stuff happening in the running world. Lovely big one. We got the Chicago Marathon kicking off this weekend.
This weekend, as of this recording, October 9th, 2024.
Yeah. So on October 13th, we have a bunch of Canadian athletes who are heading down to it. I'm interested to see how people go.
Really?
So I'm not going to name names, just so we have something to talk about next week. Hopefully some good highlights.
How they do.
Yep.
Like competing to win it? Or just competing to be in it?
I think more so top 10.
Hey, that's pretty dang good to me.
Yeah, still bloody good, but I don't think it's one of the flatter courses, so we should hopefully see some really
fast
good
times.
It's known to be a quick race.
I mean, the only Canadian that I can name who recently did a marathon did it in like 5 hours and 29 minutes.
Yeah.
That's me. So that's not top 10.
I mean, at least you've run a marathon.
Yeah, but you just don't want to because it's very long.
It's a long way to run.
Not that he can't. He just doesn't want to do it.
There's a lot of people who don't want to run a marathon. It's an achievement.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to seeing how it goes.
All right.
I mean, we still have a few other marathons left for the year, so we'll be paying attention to
big
those.
marathons?
We're
talking like New York, Boston.
Yep.
Like things of that stature.
Yeah, some of the big names. The ones that people really want to try qualify for that are hard to get into.
Ooh.
So we'll be keeping some eyes on that as things unfold. And then we got some of our smaller sports. So we have the Canadian Mountain Running Championships is happening on the 12th and 13th.
CMRC?
Yes.
Dang.
That is it. It's happening. Where is it? Oh, I haven't got that noted. Oh, jeez.
It's happening soon, though.
It is. Yeah, it's cracking on. And then we have the North American Ultimate Disc Championships. So Frisbee.
Hey,
disc.
You know what?
It depends who you talk to, what it is, whether it's...
Wait, is this the disc golf or is the Frisbee football looking thing?
The football one.
Oh, okay. Great. I don't know Canadian, but I know MKBHD, the YouTuber, does that.
The moment you shove Ultimate, it's the football one.
Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
That's the football. So it's not Ultimate Frisbee.
Well, it is, but it's disc. I think it depends who you talk to.
Interesting.
It's disc or Frisbee. It seems to be...
Frisbee's a brand name.
There we go.
So that's part... Is that the league then? No, Kate's back there.
It's Ultimate.
It's Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah, Ultimate Frisbee's the thing.
So we're talking to something else. Disc.
Yeah.
Something.
So we've got 2 Canadian teams competing.
No, that would be Ultimate.
That would be Ultimate.
Yeah, there's either the disc golf or disc.
I thought it was.
Ultimate Disc Frisbee.
Yeah, I think we just say Frisbee, but it's actually the brand name of the disc.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's the football. You got to get it into the try zone, basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's Ultimate Frisbee then.
I think you can run it in.
Really good at it.
Really?
Yeah, we got 2 teams competing in it. So we have the Toronto Goat.
The Goats?
Literally Goat. There's no S. It's just Goat.
The Toronto Goat?
But it's all capitals. Okay, I believe it's G.O.A.T. right? That
Of
I don't
course.
actually know what it stands for, but
Toronto's calling themselves the greatest of all time. Sorry, I'm from
Apparently.
Edmonton. This is really hard for me. Anyway, I love Canadians. Here we go.
maybe they just like to eat grass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's exciting to get the Ultimate Frisbee Championships. I didn't know that was happening.
That's a thing. Yeah, if people get serious about this. Maybe
Yeah.
we should. And then we also have you're going to love this one. The Vancouver team is called Furious George.
Furious George.
Yep.
Man, this is wild.
We've got some wonderful names for teams here.
Wow, this is so wild.
At
Okay.
least it's like nothing like McBoatface.
Toronto Goat and the Vancouver Furious George.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
So they're going to be competing internationally in the North American.
Cool.
I mean, that probably is just us v the US, low key.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Maybe I don't know if Mexico is Mexico involved with North America typically.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
in North America.
There we go. So the trio
Sick.
battle out, see who comes on top. But
That'll be pretty cool.
I mean, depends because there's a big hurricane happening down that way again. So people are freaking
That's
out.
Florida, though. It's not close to Mexico.
Oh, it's been ripping around the Gulf.
Better not be.
Are you going?
I'm going to Mexico next month.
Okay, it'll be just fine.
It better be.
Better be
Yeah.
gone.
That's my surf truck.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well,
Yeah.
easy peas. I
And
guess we'll try and follow this up again next week. We can see how the first week of the NHL went, see how the CFL is shaping up before the playoffs here. And then I actually am most curious. Okay, here's a little segment. What is the thing that I'm most curious about?
What is?
It's the Ultimate Frisbee. I'm like super keen on to see how
that all goes.
these Canadian teams, Canadian Ultimate Frisbee. Didn't even know that. I mean, there's so many. Everything can be a sport now, but I've known that this is a sport for a very long time, and I watched some people who do it, but I didn't know that there was this league happening right now. So I'm most interested in that.
Yep. I mean, I'm gonna keep bringing up all the weird and wacky sports that I love to pay attention to, and as well, we get closer to the winter season, there are going to be some more weird and wacky
Canadians
sports.
love weird and wacky winter sports.
I mean, we're starting to make the transition in the cycling world. So mountain biking's easing up. We do have the Red Bull Rampage kicking off in Utah, which is one of the gnarliest mountain biking events. Basically, go out, Utah, there's this giant barren ridge area, and they're basically told, make your line. And it's kind of like Joyride at Whistler. Bunch of jumps, except they make their jumps, or they just kind of drop off the edge of a cliff. Crazy stuff. So if you want to see something insane, it's definitely one thing I would watch. They had we got ladies doing it this year as well, so that's also a big step. So that should be cool to see how the ladies go. We got a Canadian, Cassie Brown, she's down there, so should be interesting to see how that goes with her. And yeah, I'm interested to see. I believe we have Brandon Semenuk coming back, who's a Canadian. He's actually local from this area.
Also doing
Doing it again.
Yeah.
He's
the Red Bull
technically the
Rampage.
GOAT.
one?
He's absolutely destroyed it many a times. But they do stupid things down there. So
Great.
if you want something that'll get your adrenaline going, check that one out. Otherwise, remember to follow us on Instagram or subscribe on YouTube to Beyond the Game podcast. And thanks for joining me and Jordan.
Ew.
Episode 1.
Next week.
We'll see you guys then.